Hi everybody, here are the answers to your SGO review number 1. This is what the first page of the packet looks like, so please make sure that you're on the correct packet. And for number 1, the quantities x and y are proportional. What is the missing value in the table? As soon as you see that word proportional, you can use a proportion to solve this. So we could do x over y, 2/3 over 6 equals 5 over y. Okay, you could have used any two of these from the chart, but you had to have that 5 and you're looking for that y. Okay, you find your cross product property, 2/3 times y, which is 2/3 y, and then 5 times 6, which is 30. You solve your one-step equation by getting y all by itself. In order to get y by itself, you multiply by the reciprocal, because you don't divide fractions. Multiply by 3 over 2 on both sides. This side cancels out. On this side, I have my 2 divided by 2 is 1. 13 divided by 2 is 15. And when you multiply across, you have y equals 15 times 3 is 45. And there's your answer for number 1. Number 2, 7/10 divided by negative 3/8. We don't divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to keep my 7/10, change my division to multiplication, and my reciprocal of negative 3/8 is negative 8/3. And I'm going to multiply those. I have one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. I can cross cancel with the 8 and the 10 if I want. You don't have to, you'll just have to simplify later. They're both divisible by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And now I could multiply across. 7 times 4 is 28, and 5 times 3 is 15. And that is simplified. If you could simplify it more, you would, but I can't. You might have also left your 7 over 10 times negative 8 over 3, and if you didn't do any cross-canceling, you would have gotten negative 56 over 30, and that would have needed to be simplified, both divisible by 2. Okay, and you would have known that because they're both even, so that's where you would have gotten negative 28 over 15. I prefer the cross-canceling when I can. Number 3, we're writing the following ratio in simplest form. My first step would be to write my mixed numbers as improper fractions. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 3. And I'm going to write that as a fraction right now. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13 over 2. And I'm going to find my common denominators for both of them, rewrite them with common denominators. 3 and 2, common denominator is 6. 3 times 2 is 6, so 2 times 16 is 32. And 2 times 3 is 6, so 3 times 13 is 39. Now I have 32 6 to 39 6. So that, written as a ratio, you could just take your numerators and write them as a ratio. If you could simplify this, you would, but it is simplified. Next problem, writing the following ratio in simplest form. We have 2 feet to 4 inches. Okay, watch out here because we have feet and inches. You cannot write that as a ratio the way it is because I can convert feet to inches. I'm going to change my 2 feet to 24 inches. And I could leave my 4 inches. Now I have inches to inches. I can now write that as a ratio. 24 inches to 4 inches, and that simplifies to 6 inch to 1 inch. 6 inches to 1 inches. And since it is written as a ratio, you need to leave that over 1. You cannot write it as 6 or 6 inches. You have to keep it as 6 over 1. Number 3, an oil spill spreads 35 square meters every 5-6 hours. How much does the oil spill cover after 2 hours? A couple different ways to do this. I feel like the easiest way is to use a proportion. 35 square meters for 5-6 hour. We want to know how many square meters for 2 hours. And to solve that, you could just use your cross product property. We have 5/6 times x, which would be 5/6x. And then we could multiply 35 times 2, which is 70. Now I have a one-step equation, 5/6x equals 70. I'm going to solve that by getting my x all by itself. I need to divide, but I don't divide fractions. I multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 6/5 on both sides. And I could cross cancel that out. And I could do some cross canceling here. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 35 divided by 5 is 14. And then I could just multiply straight across. 14 times 6 is 84 over 1, or you could just, well, you should just leave it as 84. And I could label that square meters. Next problem, we have the quantities x and y are proportional. Similar question, we've seen this before. And when you see the word proportional, you can use a proportion. So I'm going to take my x and my y here, and obviously my x and my y here, since I'm looking for that. I have 2/3 over 3 equals 4 over y. Use your cross products property. I'm going to multiply 2/3 times y, which is 2/3 y, and I'm going to multiply 4 times 3, which is 12. Solving my one-step equation, 2/3 y equals 12. I'm going to divide, but we don't divide fractions. We multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3/2 on both sides. And on the left side, I'm left with y equals. On the right side, I could do some cross canceling. So, I feel like I'm sorry. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and then 6 times 3 is 18. Y equals 18. Okay, next problem, we have 1/3 to 3/4, writing them as a ratio. So I'm going to write 1 over 3 over 3 over 4. Best bet is to get a common denominator, would be 12. 4 times 3 is 12, 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12, so 1 times 4 is 4. Show my work here for you. And I'm going to take my numerators and write them as a ratio, 4 over 9. Number 3, following your order of operations, I'm going to use my grouping symbols first. So we have 4 plus 6 times 10 minus 6 is 4 plus 7 squared. Then I'm going to do my exponents. So 4 plus 6 times 4 plus 7 squared. 7 times 7 is 49. Then I'm going to do multiplication. 4 plus 6 times 4, which is 24, plus 49. 4 plus 24 is 28 plus 49. And I'm going to add those together. 28 plus 49 equals 77. Is your answer there. Okay, next one. The ratio of boys to girls in class are 3:2. 3 represents the boys, and 2 represents the girls. If there are 20 students in the class, how many are girls? So we're looking for girls out of students. So that was our ratio in words, girls over students. So we need the boys' number, right, here, because if there's 3 boys and 2 girls, that would give me a total of 5 students. Okay, so we need to use that. So we have 2 girls over 5 students equals X girls over 20 students. Okay, cross product property, 5 times X is 5X, oops, and we could have used the multiplication method, that would have been easier. Oh well. 2 times 20 is 40, and we could solve that by dividing by 5 on both sides, and X equals 8. Sorry, I could have used multiplication. 5 times 4 is 20, so 2 times 4 is 8. 8 girls. Okay, next problem. We have 2y minus 3y equals 5y. First combine your like terms. 2y minus 3y, different signs subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1, and that would be a negative 1y equals 5. We can't be left with a negative y, so we're going to solve that by dividing by negative 1 on both sides, and we get y equals negative 5. Make sure you're making your corrections on this. Finding the unit rate, 96 miles in 8 days. Unit rate, we divide. So we're going to take 96 miles and divide it by 8 days to find out how many miles per 1 day. 96 divided by 8 is 12 miles in 1 day. And that's your answer there. Number 1 for SGO review number 5, when you multiply all of those numbers, you look at all of them before you do anything, because that would be awfully ugly, but we could just multiply across and our answer is 0. Anything times 0 is 0. Number 2, solving the proportion. We're going to use our cross product property. 7 times x is 7x, and 5 times 21 is 105. One-step equation there. To solve that, we are going to divide by 7 on both sides, and x equals 15. Number 3. We have our absolute value symbols, and we're going to do everything within the absolute value symbols first. So we have 1 negative, so my answer is going to be negative. I could do some cross-canceling with my 2's. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 4 times 5 is 20. And when I find the absolute value of that, the absolute value of negative 120, how far away is that from 0? It's 1/20. Next one. Glow green paint calls for 1 2/3 cup of blue paint for each 1/3 cup of yellow paint. If Mrs. Airy needs 12 cups of glow green paint, how much blue paint is needed? Okay, so we have 1 2/3 of blue, 1/3 of yellow. We need a total of 12 cups of green. When we mix the blue and the the blue and the yellow together, we get green. So we need to do that adding here, 1 2/3 blue, and you combine that with the 1/3 yellow, you have a total of 2 cups of green. Okay, so I'm going to need that when I find out how much blue. I'm going to take my cups of blue, which is 1 2/3, to a total of 2 cups of green. And I'm going to set that equal to 12 cups of green. We want to know how much blue. Okay, we could use our multiplication method here because 2 times 6 is 12. So 1 2/3 times 6. I'm going to change that to an improper fraction. That would be 5/3 times 6 over 1. Do some cross canceling here. And we have 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. We don't need 10 over 1, just 10 cups of blue is your answer. Okay, we have -2 times 8 divided by 2 plus 5 minus 24. Following your order of operations, you should do multiplication first. -2 times 8 is -16 divided by 2 plus 5 minus 24. Then we're going to do our division. -16 divided by 2 is -8 plus 5 minus 24. If you would like to go left to right here, you could collect your negatives. It doesn't matter. It's easy enough to go left to right. -8 plus 5 would be -3 minus 24. And there you have same sign, so you should add, and you get -27. Number 3, we have 3/8 and 13/40. Are they proportional? Well, we could use the cross product property, 3 times 40, which gives me 120. And then we could do 8 times 13, which is 104. And 120 does not equal 104, so they are not proportional. Okay, next one, we're evaluating -5 and 9/10 times -9 and 7/10. So you have to do some long multiplication here. And we have 2 negatives, so my answer is positive, so I don't have to worry about those negatives. 7 times 9 is 63. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 6 is 41. Then we have 9 times 9 is 81. Put your space saver there. 81. 9 times 5 is 45. Plus 8 would be 53. Add that up. 3 plus 0 is 3. 1 plus 1 is 2. 4 plus 3 is 7. 5 plus 0 is 5. And I need to move my decimal 2 places. So 57 and 23/100ths. And we already decided it's a positive answer. Number 2, 7/10 plus 1 2/5. I'm going to rewrite that. 7/10 plus 1 2/5. So I'm going to write that as 7/5. I cannot add that the way it is. I need a common denominator. So 10 would be a common denominator. 5 times 2 is 10. So 7 times... Oh, what did I just do? Is 14. 14 plus 7 is 21 over 10. And I could leave it just like that as an improper fraction. And for your last problem, we have 2x over 5 equals 9 over 15. We're solving for x. So we're going to use cross product property. 2x times 15 is 30x, and 9 times 5, which is 45. Solving that one-step equation. I'm going to divide by 30 on both sides. And x equals 45 and 30 are both divisible by 15. 45 divided by 15 is 3. 30 divided by 15 is 2. And I could leave it just like that, 3 over 2. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Have a great day.